Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salat. Allahu Akbar.
Arise, giving all praises to the great God of the universe, affectionately known to the Moorish Americans as Allah. Allah is the author, the creator, the governor of the worlds, the almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. All praises are due to Allah. I extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. I extend high honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations, Islam. I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. Islam? I extend high honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam? This is also the flag of our birth. Islam, Moors? Giving honors to the noble acting Sheikh staff, noble Vanguard, acting Vanguard staff who keep the peace. I extend high honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother R. Edwards-El. I give honors to all present and past Supreme Grand Sheikhs, and Grand Governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? I also give honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you there is no Moorish movement. Islam, Moors? Praise Allah. How's everyone on the holy day? I also like to extend high honors to my grandchildren who are present. You know, usually a lot of times you see children, they be running all around and stuff like that. The Prophet raised them different. So I give honors to my grandbabies who are present. Islam? I give honors to our family from LaGrange, Georgia. Islam? Can I get the family from LaGrange to please rise? Just, I ain't gonna ask you to do nothing yet. Just to please rise so you can be acknowledged. Islam? Islam, give a round of applause, Moors. These Moors traveled from LaGrange, Georgia to be here with us tonight. Praise Allah, praise Allah. Please be seated. And before I begin my demonstration today, you know, I come with gifts. I don't just come up here with, you know, some deep information. Islam, Moors? In case you didn't know, we're gonna feed y'all tonight too. We got some food for the body as well. So we got some good vegan lasagna back there and so on and so forth. Islam? Gratitude. Let's see. Got this. And one more thing. If I could call up front my brother Justin Magruder-El to the front. For those who did not get the memo, a couple weeks ago, subordinate temple number 19 has been elevated from the status of subordinate temple to that of grand temple. With myself being, you know, elevated, you know, I already had the title of Grand Governor, but now I have credentials as being the Grand Governor of the state of Georgia. So it's my duty and obligation to set aside temples throughout the state of Georgia, where all throughout the state ones can hear the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Moors? All right. My first official act, you know, in this capacity is to extend some honors and some responsibility. All right. You can face your people, because that's what you're gonna be doing after you get this. You'll be facing your people. So we want to, you know, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali gives the Grand Governors the charge and the leeway to make and enforce law. You know, we look at amongst different ones, you know, who come across our path, and we try to identify certain talents, right, of ones who would be able to carry the Prophet's message forth into far and distant lands, and no matter how far or how distant, that message will remain consistent. This is why we asked our brother Justin Magruder-El to come before you and demonstrate tonight. Islam? Because we don't want you to believe that our brother will be able to handle himself and his beautiful wife herself down in LaGrange, Georgia, without hearing, coming before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. See, Act 1 of the Moorish Science Temple of America, in the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, it reads, Salvation, Allah, Unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Ultimately, the people had ultimate confirmation over its leadership. Islam? See, this movement doesn't belong to any Grand Sheikh. Doesn't belong to any Grand Governor or Supreme Grand Sheikh. It doesn't belong to the Supreme Grand Council. Islam? It belongs to the people, right? The Constitution that that our people, that those who are aware of citizenship hold so dear, starts off with what? We, and the Europeans didn't start that. That started by the Iroquois Confederation, which was our ancestors long ago on these shores before the Europeans got here. All right? But what we're going to do this evening, we're going to issue what is known as a warrant of authority. Okay? The warrant of authority, all right, is a dispensation which gives our study group that we'll be establishing in LaGrange, all right, the powers to organize along the lines and the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam. I'm going to place this in the hands of my brother, Justin Magruder-El, but before I do, I'm just going to read it so you'll know what's on you. Islam Moors? Salvation, Allah, unity, Moorish Science Temple of America, to all whom these presents may come. Greetings, the Home Office. By virtue of the authority vested in the Most Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated, by a lawfully granted warrant of authority, the state of Illinois had granted this warrant of authority. So the study group of the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated at, I won't give the address for now, in the county of Troup, in the state of Georgia, to be styled as Moorish Science Temple of America number 19C, 19-C, invested with all the powers and privileges of a study group within the jurisdiction of the said Home Office. Hear ye. Jurisdiction aforesaid, by virtue of whose authority exists, while acting in conformity with its laws, rules, and regulations of the Home Temple and the study group aforesaid, being duly and lawfully organized, constituted, and established, is hereby authorized and empowered to initiate and confer the degrees of the said study group in accordance with the established forms and usages upon all such person as are duly qualified to promote and practice the teachings of the all true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. The officers and members who benefit under this warrant of authority do hereby pledge themselves to act at all times in obedience to the commands and edicts of the illustrious Noble Drew Ali, the founder and head of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Home Office can at any time suspend, revoke, or take away this warrant authority if, in the judgment of our Grand Ruler and Prophet Noble Drew Ali, said subordinate study group has violated any of the principles or rules of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In testimony whereof I have hereunto subscribed my name and affixed the seal of the said Moorish Science Temple of America, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, this 23rd day of October, AD 2020, Chicago, Illinois, County of Cook, State of Illinois, which is where we were founded at and established at. Attest Sheikh Heru Ranesi-El, Grand Governor, on behalf of the Noble and Prophet. Islam Moors? Brother Magruder-El. Give our brother a round of applause. Hold it up high. Let's go and get this photo out. Okay. We're good? Praise Allah. Brother Magruder-El, this right here, this warrant of authority, is a lot of responsibility. Okay. The Moorish elders, used to, inform the sheiks. Said, keep your hand to the gospel plow. Gospel meaning good news, right? To the gospel plow. It said, it is better that if you take a millstone and put it around your neck and jump off into the ocean than to let your hand off of the gospel plow. You're going to be tried. You're going to be slandered. You're going to be betrayed. All of that comes with leadership, right? But you have to remember, as Jesus says in chapter 15 of our Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, he asked himself, he said, first it says he looked into his heart to know his inner heart, to know its strength and worthiness. Then he asked himself a question, he says, have I this strength to give my life as a willing sacrifice for men? Islam? If you read through that chapter, it gives you the degrees on the divine ministry, all right? But the point is that we're placing this in your hands because we realize that being in communication with you for all this time, and even being at your wedding, I had the honor of performing the brother's wedding ceremony, 1 month and 1 day ago, all right? Which alone is amazing, right? But, just seeing your sincerity and seeing the family line that you come from, seeing the brothers and sisters that you have down there with you in LaGrange, you're not alone. Islam Moors? And, if you need our help for anything here at Grand Temple number 19, we're only a phone call or thought away. We'll be burning the highway up to get down there to you. Islam? Takbir! 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 Who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? Islam. Give our brother a round of applause. Our other brothers who are present from LaGrange, please rise. LaGrange, Columbus area. More, don't let our brother be alone in his duties. One thing we always try to stress is that, if you claim to be a part of the work, you have to be present when the work is being performed. Don't leave your leaders out there, right? Because when you have a divine calling to lead something, you're always on the forefront. You know, the prophet said, these are the vanguards of the movement. The vanguard is the one that's up front, all right? But what happens is, as leaders, a lot of times we'll step out, and then you look around, you find yourself by yourself, right? But y'all are all in the same area, right? I know y'all know that Allah is one. I know you know his prophet is Noble Drew Ali. I know you know your nationality is Moorish American. So there's no reason that one should not be working together who have all that in common. That is unity. So unity is not something you have to acquire, it's something you already have, right? And his brothers, you know, recognize and been given power and authority to demonstrate those degrees down there. And, you know, anytime, you know, we talked about the study group, y'all's names always came up. Always. He never just talked about him and his wife only. Y'all's names always came up. All right? So please support our brother and get our brothers back and, you know, get out into LaGrange, you know what I'm saying, and introduce the people to the prophet and his program, right? Because his program is that which is going to change the condition of our people. All right? But with that, oh, praise Allah. We honored for y'all to take up the banner. All right? And
trying to get in.
oh no, y'all are already in. Y'all are already in, obviously. You know, y'all are definitely in. The key is though to stay in. That's the key. That's the key to maintain and expand. Right? You got to get past survival. Islam, praise Allah. All right, y'all can please be seated, brother Magruder-El. Just press your hand off. Islam, may Allah continue to bless you and keep you strong. Islam? Islam. Praise Allah. Again, round of applause. Oh no, I got some more gifts for you, Mo. Hold on. No. That didn't feel right. I got some more stuff for you, Mo. Grand Temple business. Islam? All right, along with that, because you know, ones may doubt, he could have printed that off the internet. Right. Here we have a letter of organization. 1023, to all whom these presents may come. This letter is to inform all that Brother Justin Magruder-El has been appointed to organize a study group in LaGrange, Georgia. He has been appointed by Brother Heru Ranesi-El, Grand Sheikh Grand Governor of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Grand Temple 19, for the purpose of organizing said study group that shall be styled as Moorish Science Temple of America Study Group 19-C. This letter does not confer the authority or office of Sheikh, Divine Minister, or Adept upon Brother Justin Magruder-El. The purpose of the letter is to demonstrate that Brother Justin Magruder-El is appointed to organize the study group and is responsible for making sure that all members of the said study group learn, live by, and act in conformity with the rules, regulations, laws, and customs of the Moorish Science Temple of America as founded by the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The study group must stay in conjunction with the doctrines and holy instructions of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. All members and sympathizers must be a part of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our people better citizens. Brother Justin Magruder-El is to answer directly to Brother Heru Ranesi-El, Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor, relative to all matters concerning the Moorish Science Temple of America Study Group 19-C. Brother Heru Ranesi-El, Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor, can at any time revoke or suspend the warrant of authority of the Moorish Science Temple of America Study Group 19-C if it is found that the study group is in any way in willful violation of the rules, regulations, laws, and customs of the Moorish Science Temple of America founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Peace and love, Brother Heru Ranesi-El, Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor, Grand Temple, 19, State of Georgia, Atlanta. Islam? Islam. Praise Allah. So I'm putting more responsibility on your shoulders, Mo. Islam? Take that with that. And I have one more thing. Sister Penda, can I ask you to come up? I'm not going to ask you to stand for long. If you could stand next to your husband, that would be so beautiful. Right? Praise Allah. Moors, I don't know if y'all know this, but in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we are pro-family. Islam, the Prophet said, he came for the young and yet unborn. Islam? Here we have the young, these are their children, right? And yet unborn. We have one in the oven. Islam? So inshallah, Allah willing, by the time that baby breathes Allah's sweet air out on this side of the mother's womb, that baby will be a Moorish American Muslim from birth. Islam? All right? But here, the information here is kind of, sacred to them. I'm not going to go through the intricacies of it. But this is their Islamic marriage obligation contract, because everything is done according to law. Islam? All right? So you can't, a lot of people like to just, we like to just go together for 30 years. Y'all know people like that?
They still do it?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you come into Islamism, you got to do some work.
Yeah.
You got to put some vows and put some words up. You got to honor, make your word your bond. Islam? Right. So this is, I just want to show it. I'm not going to read it per se, but this is the Islamic, Moorish Islamic wedding on the obligation contract for our couple right here, which they can file at the county level to make it a legal instrument.
So I know that's my side for a question, but is that like the Moorish side of getting married,
This
or
is-
the European side of
Absolutely, you know.
getting married?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, thank y'all for being married and being and inviting us to do it. And you can have a seat, sister. I know you got a lot on you. And Brother Justin, you can have a seat as well. Mo. Thank you very much. Again, round of applause. Your question is actually going to bring me into my demonstration, so I appreciate you. You know, again, giving all praises to Allah and the highest of honors to his prophet, Noble Raleigh. So you say, is this from the Moorish side as opposed to the European side, right? Yes, that's exactly what it is. Prophet Noble Raleigh has given us, and vanguards as you were. Prophet Noble Raleigh has given us, oh, don't drop that warrant, Mom. Ooh, there's energy on that demonstration. The prophet has given us our own laws and customs, right? He has given us the power to make our own laws and customs, which means, right, that we no longer have to do things the way that the Europeans said to do it. Islam, all right? We know, you know, when it comes time to get married, we have a way that we get married, right? We have holy books that we pull from that are different than other people's. Islam, we have a way that we stay married that are different than other people's. What's the divorce rate in America? Like 75% now?
Seems like 80.
It might be 80, could be 90 now.
I know, right?
All right? But the reality is that they don't have the instructions to move from, the holy instructions to move from like we do, right? I was talking to a master earlier this week, a Moorish master, and the Moors demonstrate some degrees. He said, okay, in chapter 5 of the Holy Quran in the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? He gives you your working tools, right? For anybody ever read that, you see, he talks about the compass and the square and the axe and the hammer and the saw and the line and all these, the plummet line, all that, right? But he gives you the worker tools. Now, if you're using any builders in the room, okay, Islam, right? If you're a master builder, right, or even a builder for that matter, you have to be able to read blueprints, right? You know, because everything has a mathematical precision of where things are supposed to go and how, right? If it's 24 and a quarter and you do 24 and a half, it's not gonna fit.
It's gonna be off.
That's gonna be off, Islam. So you gotta be able to read blueprints. As a Moorish American master builder, you gotta be able to read the blueprint. Islam, what's the blueprint for a Moorish American master builder? If you can't read and interpret this, or like my Christian brother would say, rightly divide this particular demonstration, right? You may call yourself Moorish, but you'll still be clinging to the names and principles that deluded slavery. So just because you could put the prophet's fez on, right? You could put the prophet's sash on, you could put the prophet's holy garb on, the ancient garbs of our forefathers that he returned to us. You can put all those things on, right? But if you're not able to interpret the blueprints, right? You'll still be operating as Negro, black, and colored, right? What does nationality mean? I'll start you off for those who might know. The quality or character that arises from what? The fact of a person belonging to a nation or state. First two things, that mentioned in nationality are quality and character. I'm supposed to be able to know a Moorish American by how they move, not by what he has on, right? Because the Shriners wear fezzes, but that don't make them Moorish American, do it? Islam, my elder Sheikh James Barnes Bey, may Allah be pleased with him, used to say, they put the fez on the monkey and the elephant.
So the one that spin around.
Islam, crank it up, he got a vest on with the two symbols.
Yeah, with the little symbol.
Islam, that was in mockery of you, right? So put the fez on that, but did that mean did that fez make the monkey a Moor?
No.
No, it didn't. Islam? So it is your quality and character that sets you apart. So that's the word holy. When we hear that, we start thinking Christianity, right? The word holy is ancient, right? Means distinguished, means set apart, right? Everybody wants their children to be distinguished, right? You want to represent the house, you want them to represent the household when they're away from you, right? You want the world. Islam, we got a brand new baby right here. Islam, Sister Jasmine. Praise Allah. The Ashe Bey family, I can vouch for this family. I know this family right here. They are raising these babies, right, to be distinguished and set apart from other children. Their mother speaks fluent Japanese.
Really?
Facts.
Say something.
Don't do that. Oh, she'll little joke after the meeting. If you feel like demonstrating, you can. Don't feel no pressure. No pressure. You might be, you might ask for more than you. Yeah, she's the truth. She is the message that she brings. Know that, right? But the reality is, how far advanced would the children of a mother that speaks fluent Japanese be?
Hey, the fruit don't fall off of the tree.
Some of us barely speak English well. And that's our primary language. Islam? So the goal is you want to, distinguish and separate yourself so one will clearly know that you are indeed your forefathers. Islam? And be clear that the European nations, as well as the rest of the world, knows who the Moors were and are, right? You don't know.
Gotta have a past and future.
And because you don't know, they can rule in your stead as you. Islam? They can rule in your land over you without you knowing, and you'll be just, you'll speak to power as though it's something away from yourself, right? When you are the power. Islam? I give honor to my brother Justin Magruder-El for two reasons. One, the prophet says, imitate I the prophet, in speech and action, right? If you heard our brother's demonstration and the way that he demonstrated, I was taken aback, and my mind traced itself back to some of the wisdom, the Moorish American forefathers gave us, where they said the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was not really a loud speaker, right? He wasn't one that would, radical and agitate, all kinds of stuff. He spoke in a tone very similar to our brother. Very calm, very methodical, very thought out, Islam, but the spirit that he spoke in connected with people, right? And they felt his spirit more so than the words, right? Because the prophet said, every word I speak is spirit. Islam? So when you're reading the Holy Quran at the Moorish Science Temple of America, or when you're reading the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, right? Or you're reading the Quran questionnaire, you're receiving the spirit of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? Brother Acting Assistant Grand Sheikh demonstrated the article called The Voice of the Prophet, right? There are ones right now that say, well, we got video of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was in the 20s. Why don't we have video of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali? Why don't we have audio of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali so we could at least hear his voice? Islam? That's a valid question, isn't it?
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
But,
That's a very valid question.
Can I get a witness here?
Don't take over the meeting, brother. Have a seat.
No,
No, have a seat, brother. I'm up here now. Have a seat. Have a seat. We'll deal with that after.
Yeah, we deal with
All right?
that.
Now look, when it deals with the voice of the prophet, well, ain't nothing wrong with that because we are spirited people. Islam? All right? But when you talk about the voice of the prophet, right? Every time you read anything that the prophet wrote, you hearing the voice of the prophet. Islam? You align yourself to a degree, right? Where you constantly studying, right? You come to me and ask me what to study, I will say what?
Just say it.
Having well studied them, if you come back and ask me to study, I will say yourselves, right? So if you study yourself well and stay in the holy and divine instructions, right? At a certain point, you'll find yourself in situations, right? And then you'll say, man, what situation's agitating, what should I do? And the lesson will come through you. It'll download itself to your mind and it'll just come out of you without you even really thinking or trying to access it. So when you're being the message that you bring, as opposed to acting in semblance of the message, right? You become the oracle and it just comes out of you. Islam Moors? And you'll speak a universal language that all nations speak. Islam? So this language is not limited by borders, right? So it's a universal thought. Noble Drew Ali was a universal prophet, even though he came to us. His truths were universal. When you speak what he brought, the way he brought it, the Chinese can hear you and be like, I know what you're saying, brother. Come on in. The Indians, come on in. You're welcome. Islam? Because you're not speaking something that's outside of the family of nations. Islam? I want to demonstrate something for you. For those who have Holy Qurans of the Moorish Science Temple of America, turn to chapter 30. And while you're looking from that, I just demonstrate the front of the cover of the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah. Islam? Chapter 30. Let me hear Islam when you're there.
Islam.
Praise Allah. Y'all sound awake. I like that. Chapter 30. Holy instructions from the prophet, the social duties. Now, Brother Justin Magruder-El tapped right into what I was going to demonstrate. We synced up. Yeah, and the Brother Acting Sheikh. We synced up. It says, when you talk about membership, right? The social duties. It says, instruction 1. When thou considerest thy wants, when thou beholdest thy imperfections, acknowledge his goodness, O son of humanity, who honored thee with humanity, endowed thee with speech, and place thee in society to receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. Protection from injuries, thy enjoyments of the comforts and the pleasures of life, all these thou owest to the assistance of others, and couldst not enjoy but in the bands of society. It is thy duty, therefore, to be a friend to mankind, as it is thy interest that man should be friendly to thee. As the rose breatheth sweetness from its own nature, from the heart of a benevolent man produceth good works. He enjoyeth the ease and tranquility of his own breast, and rejoiceth in the happiness and prosperity of his neighbor. He openeth not his ear unto slander. The faults and failings of men give a pain unto his heart. His desire is to do good, and he searcheth out the occasions thereof. In removing the oppression of another, he relieveth himself. From the largeness of his mind, he comprehendeth in his wishes the happiness of all men, and from the generosity of his heart, he endeavoreth to promote it. Islam? Those first two instructions, the Prophet is giving you the blueprint on how to form your own society. Okay? Now, name some ethnic groups in America that you consider to be strong. Name them out. Call them out. Chinese. Who else? Korean. Who else? Italians. Who else?
Arabs.
The Arabs. Who else?
The Operox, I forgot you said that.
What is it?
It's the Opera Box.
Okay, I'm not familiar with them. But if they organize, okay, we'll go with them. Orthodox.
Yes.
Orthodox Jews?
Yes.
Okay, they call themselves Hasidic. Thank you very much. Y'all work together on that. Praise Allah. Very organized group. Yes.
We was learning that stuff in school.
Islam. Okay, praise Allah. Praise Allah. But know that you are the original Hebrew and Moabite and all of that. They came to your way of life later. Know that, because they're not going to teach you that in school. Islam. All right. But these various different groups, right? How is it that they're organized? What is it about them that you deem them as organized? What do they do? How do they move? Together. Islam. Give me an example of their togetherness.
I would just say, like, at the above the house where we stay, we have a little store.
Okay.
And it's an Arab store.
Okay.
And they got all their family working in there. Like, they have some about people
Wow.
in there, but it's like, no, that's all Arab.
They have all their family working in business.
Working in that business.
In that particular business. Praise
So
Allah.
I just feel like they do things together. It's like they look out for each other.
Islam.
Like, I'm not saying we don't do that, but it's like we would rather be in competition with each other than come together and work together to outweigh the Arabs.
Wow.
Like, instead of me trying to be in competition with my sisters,
Right.
me and my sisters should come together and try to be in competition with the Arab, or at least for our community. But I just see them a lot of times, they do everything together.
Islam. That's study group 19C right there. That's y'all working. Praise Allah. Well, you got that thing in the right hands. All right. Anybody else? Brother Jabbar. Islam up.
I rise giving all praise to Father God Allah and highest honor to his prophet no drought.
Islam, you recognize?
I would say the good example that I see in Duluth or in Norcross where me and Jasmine live in the county, the Indian American community,
Huge.
from the actual country India. They have I believe it's called an ashram.
Yes.
Or their temple, or, place of worship. They have an entire compound where they have their ashram, they have a school to teach the youth from their community.
That's right.
They have a restaurant. They have they have a welcome, like a visitor center to be able to, for other people that want to come and visit and see their ashram and come and see it, and even how it's built. They fly in the builders from India who build it, and they even fly in the materials.
Right. From India.
From India.
Islam.
And there's me and Jasmine kind of in debate about it, but there's a neighbor in our subdivision or whatever. I believe he's Indian because he says he owns a Dunkin' Donuts.
Islam.
A certain way.
Okay. Islam.
But from the economic, from the educational, from the spiritual, like from the way they talk, carry and stuff, all that kind of stuff, you know them when you see them.
Islam.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Forget about the Mexicans.
No doubt, can't.
You see them in that doggone plant. You see a group of them together.
They're working now.
Shoot, they do more to work, but they survive. They might take one wheel and come and go from work, eat lunch together.
Absolutely.
I've never seen nobody move in that bit of
Like they move.
But like the same way me and my childhood friends move, it's the same way that the Mexican families move.
As adults, though, right?
Oh, that's crazy.
Did anybody see the clip? There's a clip circulating online where a group of Mexicans were working at a work site, and the manager fired one of them. And all of them got together and found out about it, and they all walked off the work site. Shut the whole work site down. Y'all seen that?
Oh, strike.
Right. But that's called nationality. That's called free national standards and principles. Islamors? See, I'm quite sure all of them had families. You know, because you know the excuse we would have heard, well, I got to feed my family. I can't walk off.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But if you hurt one of us, you hurt
All of us.
united, we stand, divided, we.
And that's why I like people like them.
But they demonstrate. They don't just talk about it. They are about it. So because they understand what the prophet just said, right? When you consider it your wants, right? We go to work every day because we consider our wants, right? We wake up in the morning, I got to get to work because I got some wants and some needs for my family. Islam said, when you behold your imperfections, the things where you're weak at, right? It says, acknowledge his goodness, O son of humanity, who honored thee with humanity. So if you are part of humanity, or part of the family of nations, right? You're endowed with speech. You are placed in a society to receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. What does reciprocal mean?
When you give back what you give.
Islam, which is also the definition of justice, right? Okay? And mutual, what does mutual mean?
To not choose sides, just remain together, to be in harmony.
To harmony, Islam, to work together in the thing, Islam, all right? So that's why you're in the society. Reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. Protection from injuries. Again, when you hurt one, the group is supposed to come together to bring the justice to that, all right? Enjoyments of the comforts and the pleasures of life, all these thou owe to the assistance of others and could not enjoy but in the bands of society. Prophet Noble Ali also teaches, he says, no man liveth unto himself, but is bound by what? Cords to what? Every other living thing, right? So that's what they say. You have two words in English. You have the word accord, right? You ever seen a military dress, right? And then on the military dress, they'll have a cord. That's showing that person has risen to such a degree in rank that they are aware of the fact that they're bound by cords to every living thing, right? But when you're out of sync of that, you're causing a what? Discord. Islam, you'll find out the ones that will put out the holy city of Mecca, that came about because they caused a discord in the holy city. Islam wars? And they were chased out by our forefathers. Islam, all right? So, society, right? Social duties, right? Now, we'll do something real quick. I'm gonna read a definition, right? Because we can't think we know the definitions of things. This is Moorish American's favorite book right here. Boy, this is Black's Law Dictionary. Boy, I think y'all love that more than the Koran. Woo! That European boy, he gets some honors in the Moorish community, unfortunately. Henry Campbell Black, pardon. So. But this is Black's Law Dictionary. I think this is 7th edition. It's a citizen under the definition of citizen. Now, Brother Heru demonstrated member, right? What it is to be a member, right? Now, Act 6, Prophet Noble Ali of the Divine Constitution Bylaw says what? With us all members, right? So we invoke the word, right? Citizen, a person who, by either birth or naturalization, is a member of a political community, owing allegiance to the community and being entitled to enjoy all its civil rights and protections. A member of a civil state entitled to all its privileges. Remember, the prophet is a universal prophet. So what I just read from the social duties, the first two instructions, all of that language is in that right there, right? But we'll read this and lean to this as though it's unto itself, not realizing that the prophet that came to you taught you the same thing. Which, if you stood on the foundation that he laid, you'd be talking universal language that even lawyers would understand. Because the Prophet Noble Ali was also a lawman. He was a prophet, but he was also a lawman. All right. So being a Capricorn. Any Capricorns in the room? I know my wife is over there. Capricorn deals with law and limitation and finite boundaries. Capricorns like lines. Like they don't like just. I'm a Libra. I like to be. You know what I'm saying? Capricorn is like, that's cool, but we got to do this right. That's the Prophet Noble Ali. All grand sheiks and governors must. You know what I'm saying? With us, all members must. Sons and daughters must. Husband, you must. Wife, you must. Because he's laying the lines. Islam, he's doing what an architect does, right? What does the word architect mean? Anybody know? Architect comes from the word arch and tecton. Arch means chief, and tekton means stone cutter, right? Tekton is the word they use when they call Jesus a carpenter in the Bible. That's the Greek word. Tekton means stone cutter, right? One who knows how to cut with those precise right angles, horizontals, and perpendiculars, right? To take a rough stone and make it a perfectly cut stone, right? To take that stone that the builders refused and make it the headstone of the corner. Islam was? All right? So now, being a citizen, you have to be a part of a political community. Islam? So between now and October 3rd, part itself, November 3rd, right? Everybody's voting, right? Now, tell you something about voting. Now the Moors vote. Let's be clear on that. The Moorish American Muslims vote. Prophet Noble Drew Ali not only told us about it, but he demonstrated it. Islam? So we should be a part of that. I'll give honor. Sister Stephanie, would you please rise? I'm not gonna ask you to say nothing. You just please rise. You mind? Just stand up. Islam. I give honors to my sister Stephanie White Bay, and her husband, who's on post at the door, Brother Travis Rivera Bay. They're very ingrained in the politics in Henry County. They're assisting with the campaign of our sister, whose name is? Sister Regina Lewis Ward. And they got boots on the ground. I'm quite sure they're doing door to door. And a little bit of everything. These Moors are tired. These Moors are exhausted from doing a lot of political work in the community. Islam? And they're doing exactly what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us to do. Islam? You can have a seat, sister. Thank you. All right? Now, here's a trick that's not being told to us, right? They say, get out and vote, right? But do you know the ethnic groups are organizing along the lines of a political bloc, a voting bloc, they call it, right? So you mentioned the various different ethnic groups, right? They all get together. See, every ethnic group in America has their equivalent of the Moorish Science Temple of America in their community, okay? Has anybody ever heard of the Sons of Italy? Okay, and for those who have phones, just Google that real quick, right? Whoever gets the definition first, just put your hand up. I'll call on you to just read the quick definition. Even the Wikipedia description is fine, all right? But what happens is they're organizing along the lines of their ethnic communities to decide what their community wants, right? And they all agree to vote a particular way. They're not just going down there as individuals voting. They're going down there as groups of people, and they have donated finance to these people's political campaigns, right? Are you more quick to help those who help you, or to just help a stranger you don't know to walk up to you? You're more quick to help somebody that you're familiar with that's helped your cause. Islam? Brother Kwasi, what you got, Mo?
It says it was founded on June 22nd, 1905 by Vincenzo Celerio to help assimilate Italians into American society.
Slow down. Go back to that. Hit that part one more time. To help do what?
To help assimilate Italians into the American society.
Okay, keep going.
During the immigration boom on the early 20th century, in 1928, Celerio was given the key to the city of New York in recognition of his social and medical achievements.
Okay, you can one more sentence. That's fine.
After World War II, the organization faced criticism for the heavy involvement by the OSIA in Mussolini's fascist propaganda campaign in the 1920s and 1930s.
Okay, Islam. So that organization's responsibility was to take Italian immigrants and help them assimilate into American society. Does that mean to just melt away their culture? No, it's not what that means. That means to teach them how to live under a republic under the United States Constitution, right? But they were doing that as an ethnic group. There's something known as identity politics. Right? Identity politics means that you go to the polls by way of your ethnicity. You're going as a group. I am a Moorish American Muslim, and we agreed to vote this way, so we're going to do this. Islam wars? All right? Now, it mentioned the year 1905 and the year 1928, right? Let me just read this to you real quick. The back of the Quran Questions for Moorish Americans, of which we have copies in for those who don't have one and needs one, right? It says, I Noble, this is what we call our authority. This was the document that made us a legal organization, the Moorish Science Temple of America. It says, I Noble Drew Ali do solemnly swear that at a meeting of the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America held at Chicago in the county of Cook and the state of Illinois on the 20th day of July, AD 1928. This is the same time period. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded around the same time as the Sons of Italy. So why are they more organized than us? Because they listened to the ones that came to them. We didn't want to listen to the prophet. We did in that day, But as soon as the prophet passed form in 29, we went back to being Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, dressed as Moors. That's where the division came from. Islam? Because the prophet, see again, even the prophet, may Allah be pleased with him. Even the prophet Noble Drew Ali, with all that he did, people loved the prophet. And I'm getting this from my Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother R. Edwards Hill. People loved the prophet as long as he was just telling them how great they were and where they came from and all this type of stuff that feeds your ego. But when he told the brothers, y'all got to stop sleeping around out there. Stop giving out your hard-earned money to strangers outside your house, right? We told the sisters, you got to take care of your household. You got to do better with your children. Don't bring your children out the house looking like that. Islam, honor your husband. Speak life into your husband. You've been out in the world catching all kind of stuff all day. Speak some life into that brother. Blow the holy breath on him. Islam Moors, you know, when he was correcting the Moors on how we spend our dollars, right? Like the Sheikh, I'm giving honors to the acting assistant Grand Sheikh, who was charging us as a group to sacrifice collectively to have greater things as a nation. See, we are a nation inside of a nation. Islam Moors? The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when he did the parade in Chicago in 1928, he announced us as a nation before the world. 1928, Moorish Americans walking around with fezzes on, turbans, riding on camels, and flying the Moorish flag in 28. Do you know what we looked like as a people in 1928? Islam? So this looked like something that just dropped out of 1,000 years ago, right? And that went out through all the media outlets, and back then they had telegraph. And people were doing telegraph about the prophet. You know, when the Moors first came, and this is oral history that's handed down, it said the Moors first came when the prophet first put the Moors in fezzes, right? Prophet told the Moors, go downtown Chicago, brother right here from Chicago, go downtown and come back and let me know what the people say when they see you, right? So they were downtown all afternoon, they came back and said, the holy prophet, the Europeans were terrified and said that the Turks have returned. Now, why would they say the Turks have returned? Because again, we allowed, because this right here is a Moorish headdress, right? We allowed the Turks to wear our headdress. And they did a lot of conquering of Europe, right? The eastern part of Europe wearing this headdress. So when they saw us, and they keep in mind that the original Turks looked like us. Islam? All right? So when they saw that, they thought the Turks had come back. But the Shriners knew who the Moors were. And knew Turk is cipher for it could be either Moorish Muslim or Turkish Muslim. Islam Moors? So he did it as a test run just to see how the people would respond, right? Then when he went to go do the parade, all right, and dress all the Moors in the garbs of their forefathers, he tried to go to the costume shops, right, to get the garbs of the forefathers, right? The European Shriners, you know what they did? They went around to all, the European and Asiatic costume shops and rented all the costumes so we wouldn't have anything to wear during the parade. So we give honor to Sister Tiggs-El, Sister M. Tiggs-El, I believe it was. Right? And Sister Tiggs-El was the first seamstress in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And she gathered all the sisters together, knew how to sew. And went to the prophet and said, dear Holy Prophet, if you don't mind, we'd like to sew the garments. If you tell us what to make, we'll make it. Prophet said, no problem. So all the things that you see the Moors wearing on that convention picture in 1928 came out the head of the prophet. He knew the garbs of our forefathers. So when you saw the brother wearing the Egyptian headdress, which is called a namuz, right? That came out the head of the prophet. He gave him the design for that. You see him wearing the shal and the ikal, which is the headdress that you attribute to the Saudi Arabians. It's like you would call it a table, it looks like a tablecloth with a thing like a cord that goes around this way, right? But that cord used to be what they used to tie the camel's foot with. And on a camel in the ancient time meant you were rich. Camels were expensive, right? So only the sheiks wore that particular headdress. So the prophet put that back, put us back in that. He put us back in the fez, put the turban on the sisters with the crescent pen, symbolizing an open third eye. Islam? So all of this came out in the mind of our prophet because he knew what we were supposed to look like. Islam? When he came back, when he went to go retrieve our flag from Philadelphia that had been buried in Philadelphia at Independence Hall, right? He went to these ones and said, bring them their flag back. And he brought them a flag that had a 6-pointed star on it. He said, that's not their flag. Brought them a flag with a 7-pointed star. That's not their flag. Brought them a flag with no star on it. He said, that's not their flag. Stop playing, bring them the flag. He brought the flag with the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. He said, that's their flag. Islam? So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali raised the flag, the Moorish flag in America when Morocco couldn't even fly it. This is not a Moroccan flag. This is a Moorish flag. Islam Moors? They weren't allowed to fly this to 1956 because the French had them under protectorate. They had controlled their land. Prophet raised us in 1913. We been had this flag. Islam Moors? All right? So just know that when you're demonstrating citizenship and being a member of something, right, you're a part of a body. You don't live unto yourself. you think in terms of group. Islam? I give an example. We call it a blessing because ones know that we do uplifting acts in the community. My wife and I were just about to leave to go get dressed to come to the temple tonight. And a sister is a very close friend of this temple, Grand Temple 19, pulled up in a big old pickup truck. And she said, I got some blessings for y'all. I said, okay, we've received blessings. What you got? All those boxes you see right there is all food. We sending y'all home with food tonight.
Yes, sir.
We got chicken in there, milk, apples, I think it's some vegetables in there. I want everybody to take a box. Even if you don't need the box, you know somebody that needs the box. If you don't know somebody that needs the box, pull over on the side of the road, up under the bridge, and give that stuff to somebody. Islam Moors? That's what this is. Islam, this ain't to come together to talk about how great we are, feed our egos. We're here to literally uplift a humanity that has fallen. Y'all would demonstrate some when y'all talking about them dreams. Right? And most people have had those dreams where you're falling, right? The Holy Prophet, this is what the architect says. Chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Why we all having dreams about falling? Because we fell to this plane. What, a choice? Our vibes start getting slow, so we start picking up different garbs as we were descending. Islam? All right? So our spirit started slowing down. It picked up a soul so it could travel on the plane of soul. Instead of learning its lessons there, it slowed down still and picked up a further garb, and that's when we picked up the body that contains soul and spirit. Islam? So the key is you want to do things on the earth's plane that speed up your vibration, not slow it down. Why all the marijuana products are almost to the point of becoming legal? Because they want to slow your vibration down. I get it, Morris. I ain't judging. I'm not judging what you do behind your closed doors. But I mean, the prophet did say that the jurisdiction of Moorish Science Temple of America is on your jobs, homes, or on the public streets. Now, he said that we're not to partake of intoxicants or any harmful motive that will cause detriment to the organization. So that's not just in the temple. It's on your jobs, homes, or on the public streets. Islam Moors? All right? So certain things you can't do to even slow down your vibration. Like, I'll give an example. Brothers, this is for the brothers right here, right? Why the prophet tell us as brothers that we can't drink alcohol, right? Because as brothers, here's the answer. Because as brothers, all right, we're on call 24/7. What happens if one of your brothers gets hemmed up out there in the street? And you get the call 2 a.m, Islam, we got to meet at such and such, we got to go help brother so-and-so. You can't be shaken off a drunken stupor and not able to respond to help your brother. You got to be able to respond at all times. And you can only do that when you operate from a plane of spirit, right? When you're not sluggish of will, right? But you're ready to respond and activate this Islamism. That's why we don't drink. That's why we don't smoke. Islam Moors? If you really get into the discipline of the prophet, you wouldn't even eat meat. All right? But it's a graded scale. You don't cut out all at once. The prophet says that, what is a statement that's attributed to the prophet. They say that if you've been doing a particular habit for a long time, it may be detrimental for you to stop it all at once. Right? It may be detrimental because your body has mutated itself to be able to tolerate the foolishness that you're doing. All right? So if you stop it all at once, you might harm something. You might want to wean yourself off. Cold turkey is not meant for everybody. Islam? Because there's a degree also in this blueprint called moderation. Right? Now, you got to take the degree of moderation in moderation. Right? You can't, anybody ever heard of hemlock? Hemlock is a poisonous herb. You can't consume hemlock in moderation. You can't smoke crack in moderation. Islam? You can't. In certain things you just can't. You can't shoot heroin in moderation. All right? So be moderate with moderation. Make sense? Do y'all make sense? Okay? So what I'm saying is don't misuse the prophet's what did the prophet say about that? Dear readers, what did he say on the first page? Dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. Islam? All right? We'll just draw from something real quick, and then we'll take questions, and then we'll lower the meeting. In an article entitled, taken from the Moorish Guide, February 19th, 1929, entitled Political Slavery, the prophet says, and this is on voting, the prophet says, anytime a man or woman fails or refuses to cast a sacred ballot at the polls, they separate themselves from all rights of an American citizen. For surely this is the one connecting median for citizens to his nation. They become no more than belated beasts of burden. There are reasons why certain classes who are more or less independent take no part in politics, since they say they get nothing out of such in the way of material gain. This is no less than a political slave, since they refuse to voice their sentiments at the polls. Another form of political slavery, which is probably more prevalent among the less independent classes, is that of being forced into one of the major parties and there being bribed, coerced, or otherwise forced to vote the wishes of someone else, regardless of their own minds. Before there can be general relief for the economic good of all forms of political slavery must be abolished, and every citizen must take his part in the affairs of the nation. Islam Morris? All right? So, don't fall for the trap of, oh, we vote Democrat because Asiatics are Democrats. That's not true. In the time of the Prophet, they voted Republican. That didn't make them Republicans because they were voting issue. They weren't voting party. Islam? Sometimes, a Republican might be talking more language that'll affect your people in a better way. Right? Sometimes it'll be a Democrat. Sometimes it might be an independent. Islam? But more, my thing I need to know, if you had a prophet since 1928, why don't you have your own political party? Have you ever thought about that? Why are we still finding ourselves forced to support one of the other parties? Right? So all of this is work that we're called to do. Right? But it has to do with everything to do with you working as a group and nothing to do with you working as an individual. Being Negro, black, and color is everything about being an individual. Islam? I know I said one more thing, but that's what your preacher said, and you tolerated him, so. I got one or two more things, and I'm gonna let you go. Does anybody know, you have to study your history, true? Name some of your Moorish historians. Islam. Take your time. I can come back to you, okay? While you think, I'll go to somebody else, but take your time. Anybody else? Yes. Asiatic historian, not necessarily Moorish American. Okay. Anyone else?
What's his name?
Umar Johnson.
John Hanson was a president per se, but he himself wasn't known as a historian per se. Okay. Oh, it's okay. I'll give you one for those taking notes. You have a forefather named Ibn Battuta. Battuta. I-B-N-B-A-T-T-U-T-A. Again, I-B-N-B-A-T-T-U-T-A. Right? This is from a book entitled The Odyssey of Ibn Battuta. Okay? He was a Moorish historian. Okay? The Odyssey of Ibn Battuta, and it's by David Waynes, W-A-I-N-E-S. Right? Real quick, yes, sir. Say again. Islam. So that's taken from our Quran question there. Who made you? Allah. Who was Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. Can we see him? No. That's what he's demonstrating. Islam? Oh, that's a future Grand Sheikh. I already know. Right there. And praise Allah, Allah willing, he'll stick around so we can get him his degrees. But this is on page 23 of this book. It says Ibn Battuta and his world. Just drawing this real quick in terms of political community. Nothing is known in detail of Ibn Battuta's early life and background apart from the allusions that he disclosed in the Rihla, R-A-H-L-A. That's a composition of history, of Moorish history. He was born in 1304 and was a native of Tangier in modern-day Morocco. He was therefore a Maghribi, which is M-A-G-H-R-I-B-I, Maghribi, or Westerner, as the persons from that region of North Africa were known. He was a subject too of the ruler of the Marinid dynasty with its capital in Fez. Further, he was ethnically a Berber, a Sunni Muslim, trained in the Maliki tradition of Islamic legal practice, and acted in the capacity of a Qadi or religious judge on several occasions. He wrote in Arabic, the majority language of educated Muslims throughout the Middle East and beyond. Later, while in India, he claimed knowledge of spoken Persian as well. Together with his gender, this bundle of known characteristics constituted his identity, and he wrote foremost for an Arabic-reading North African public that would have included women. And it goes on breaking down different things as far as his travels and stuff like that. But he was chronicling history around the world. He traveled to India, he traveled to Indonesia. This is in the 1300s. Writing down the history of what Muslims were doing all over the place. There's two words you need to know. Those two words are, and this is in the tongue of your forefathers, Ummah, everyone, Ummah, and Jamia. Ummah and Jamia. Both words mean community, right? But Ummah is the global community of Muslims, and Jamia is the local community. This would be considered a Jamia. Okay, Jamiat. Jamii apostrophe AH. Jam apostrophe IAH. Okay, and the next word is Ummah, which is UMMAH. And the root of the word Ummah is Ummi, which means my mother. So just as the child, while it's in the womb, is connected to the mother, right? So should you be connected to your community. Islam Wars? All right? So he was going around the Ummah, which is the what? The global community, seeing how different Muslims, according to their culture, demonstrated Islam. All right? And he chronicled it and brought all that back to Morocco for the Moors that were there and in Spain. Islam Wars? Problem is we want to study our history, but we keep going to the European scholars, which is okay, but you do have to know that they're writing from their perspective. So they're going to describe you in a certain way. Islam, you have to know who your forefathers were that wrote histories. I'll give you another one named Ibn Khaldun, IBN, and the word Khaldun, KhalDun. Okay? Ibn Khaldun wrote a book called the Muqaddimah, right? If you want that, it's Muqaddimah. That's another book showing about the empires, about how you put a king on the throne, how you take a king off the throne, how do you formulate a grand treasury for your empire, how do you arrange the military, what are the different officers in the Moorish military. All that's in the Muqaddimah. Islam Moors? But when you read it, it's going to sound like the prophet. So how is the prophet taking us back to 1300, to 1200, to these eras when we were in power, but in 1928, right? Bringing us into a knowledge of stuff that we still haven't totally employed, which could benefit us today, right? So you have to, you have to formulate your own jamia, your own community, but that can only be done by obeying the prophet that came to you. How did the ancient ones do it? They obeyed the prophet that came to them, who was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And Prophet Muhammad announced his prophethood by writing letters to the Emperor of China, right? The Caesar of Rome. Islam, these various different nations, the Negus from Ethiopia, right? Inviting them all to come to Islam, right? Because it's a new era of time now. Islam, just like Prophet Noble Raleigh announced to the nations of the earth that we are a nation of people. Islam, so you are your own political community. Islam, as Moorish American, and your divine creed is Islamism, making you Muslim. Islam, which just means one who is of peace. Right now, everybody's peaceful, everybody chilling out. Guess what? Y'all Muslims right now. That's as deep as it gets, right? Are there rites and rituals attached there? Yeah. But whether you're doing them or not, in your nature, you still a Muslim. And in Arabic, that nature is called fitra, which is F-I-T-R, fitr, right? Which just means your nature is Islam. All right? Praise Allah. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or statements? Really quick, I've been getting stuff in the mail. Amir Heru Ranesi-El. 1 vote is all it takes. Islam? I wouldn't have got this if I wasn't a member of the political community. The outer political community. Islam Wars? But I approach this through my inner political community. Islam? The man, the change we need, the end of Trump, police reform, access to affordable health care, exercise your right to vote. This was sent to me as well. This is from a particular side. I'm not pointing you either way, right? But I'm just showing that this came in the mail, right? But again, how many people received a stimulus check? If you don't want to put your hand up, it's okay. I don't want to. I'm not going to ask you for no money. Y'all had that look like, come on, Grand Sheik, don't. Right? Islam. But you wouldn't have got that or would have been able to apply for that if you wasn't a part of a political community. Islam? An outsider comes to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Yeah, I need to borrow X, Y. Well, I love you, but you're not a part of this. Now, if I want to do it as just brother Heru, that's different. But as the Grand Sheik, I don't have the right to tap into the treasury and give it to the stranger without the consent of the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? It works the same way in any organized government on earth, right? So you're not a disenfranchised people like somebody here earlier, I think it was you. We're not a disenfranchised, that's a thought that we adopted through slavery. But you are not what you went through. Islam Wars? You are not what you went through. The Jews, they talk about the Holocaust a lot, but they know they're Jews. Islam, and they stand on that. If you're Moorish American, you got to stand on that. Islam Moors and make the nations of the earth bear witness to who you are. All right? Are there any questions? Islam sisters. I love questions from the sisters. And I got you. Let me get the sisters first. Sister Pendant.
As you had said, Ummah meant global community.
Yes.
And the other one was
Jamia, which is J-A-M apostrophe I-A-H. Jamia literally means gathering. gathering, but both literally connotatively mean community. Jamia. Sister Stephanie, Islam.
So in regards to our, our unison thoughts on how to vote this November 3rd, I mean, are we going to discuss, what we plan to do as a group?
We can. Quite truthfully, it should have been done before now. Because we're weeks, you can actually vote now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because what happens is, as you know, there's a lot of things that go behind, the vote aspect. Like ideally, right, we could all vote a particular way, right? How much power is in that particular thought? Because again, if we don't put certain finances behind certain candidates, they're not gonna really remember that we voted a particular way. Like the sister that you're working with now, she's gonna remember you. She can remember all the labor that you did. She'll remember the Moors. I want to give honors to the Moors that came and helped on boots on the ground. Praise Allah, right? But again, there's nothing like when, how the prophet would have done it, right? The prophet's method was to be so organized as a group that we don't go seek out politicians. They come and court us. They look at the numbers that we have and they'll say, well, wow, that's a lot of particular votes, because they're aware of the amount of votes that it takes to, to affect the swing vote. You know what I mean? So, like in 28, when the prophet did what he did with them 5,000 Moors, bankers, politicians, everybody ran to him. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the point we got to get it to. We need numbers. We need bodies. You know what I'm saying? So with the handful of people that we have, not just in our temple, but just even the temples that are around Atlanta, we could do more. We need to do more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, undervaluing what we could do now, right? But just the reality of, if we really want to affect the change and really get the impact that we need to get out, and just like y'all are doing out there, we need a team like that to go beat the streets, to bring the people to a platform, not necessarily just of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but to bring attention to the issues that affect all Asiatics. We should actually be going in the communities and asking, well, what issues are you concerned about? And write those things down. We do our own town hall and organize that, right? Then we can go to the Secretary of State and we can organize, we can register ourselves at a particular organized body. You see what I'm saying? And that goes on the Secretary of State's record, and they're able to look and be like, well, they have 1,500 people over here. You know what I'm saying? Then you start getting calls.
I second that, and I say that because Regina Ward Lewis, she wanted to know who the Moors are.
Praise God, because y'all are out there. You know what I mean? And now if you weren't out there to the degree that you were consistently, she wouldn't be thinking about the Moors. You know what I mean? And the sad thing is that we don't think about that aspect of the movement. You know what I'm saying? But yet, every time you get gas, the tax is coming out. Every time you pay your water bill. Anybody ever look at their Georgia Power bill? How many people get a Georgia Power bill? I don't know, y'all might have solar panels, I don't know. You ever look at the itemized list down at the bottom? There was a nuclear facility built here in Georgia. Part of your Georgia Power bill goes to pay for the monies that they borrowed to build that. Don't even ask you. You're a taxpayer though, so it's coming out. You're part of a political community. But now, if you don't take and organize yourself to see how those funds are allocated, it'll automatically be taken out. Right? Don't that feel like you got robbed?
Yeah.
Right? But you didn't get robbed because you're not where you're supposed to be. You're not taking your place in the affairs of men and women. So those that are in place do what they have to do. Yes.
And the census that we just took,
disaster.
We need to prepare for what we
the next 10 years.
Release the money.
The next 10, yeah.
And that money that's going to for the people that are represented in that area. We need to figure out how we plan to use the money that's available.
Absolutely.
And create ways to give back to the community.
So there's not a lot of liaisons between us and the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, that deals with the allocation, and that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? We need to be in there at that table talking about. You see what I'm saying? But the problem is that the people we want to advocate for is not necessarily an organized group to that level. Like the groups that are first to get those monies, they're super organized, and that's the war we're fighting. That's what we're up against. To make our people realize that the battle on that battlefield, we're up against organized political communities. You know what I'm saying? While we're straggling, we start like right here to get the instructions to know how to organize it. See what I'm saying? For me, and the brother acting assistant Grant, she and I talk about this a lot. Identity is key because what you call you. So you'll notice that all the people that you say are more organized than you all have an identity that they agree on. You know what I mean? I use the example all the time of India. In India, there's like 300 different ethnic groups, but they all agree to say, I'm Indian politically. That helps your organization. You know what I mean? Like they're not going by their clan and tribal names or their ethnic names. They're going by a free national name that they agree on under one particular flag. You see what I'm saying? So that's where we find our breakdown there. So now, it's an uphill battle to try to get everybody to call themselves Moorish American, right? So we'll start with the issues that affect us on an everyday, right? Find out the things that affect all of us, right? Because there's a commonality there, right? While we're there, we can start easing the thing over into identity, but we don't do it by browbeating people talking about you not Negro, black, and color. That's not what we do. That's what we've been doing, but it's not the spirit of the prophet. You see what I'm saying? Allah is love. If the people don't feel the love in your message, they're gonna depart. Our people dealing with enough. They don't need Moorish hang-ups. I saw an Asiatic posted something the other day on Facebook that said, y'all Moors need to stop arguing because that's how y'all lost Spain. I couldn't do nothing, but I was just like, wow. The public is tired of seeing us argue with each other. Islam more. I mean, real quick, did I answer your question? You sure? Okay. Islam. Yes, sir. So how did Malcolm X and God know everything? Okay. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. That's powerful. Okay. Our brother Malcolm X. You with me? You with me? Okay. Our brother Malcolm X, just like all of our leaders, right, are inspired by the great God, right? The great God tells you what to do inside, right? And you with me? And if you have faith in what the great God said, you'll be able to act and speak on things that most people don't know, right? So it's not that Malcolm X, was God per se, or the great God, but he was inspired by the great God, just like Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? Prophet Noble Drew Ali was inspired by the great God. Marcus Garvey was inspired by the great God. When you do good, right? When you honor your mother and father, you're being inspired by the great God. When mom say clean your room and you clean your room, you being taught by God. Say again? You want to listen? You listen? Praise Allah. You being guided by God.
Praise Allah.
Islam? So that's what that is. So that's how you end up, that's how you can know a lot of things when you're inspired by the great God. That answer your question? Praise Allah. Islam more? But when the babies start asking questions, the young people, young people, y'all not babies. Okay. Yes, sir, young man.
We communicate so we can learn.
Ooh. Ooh.
Figure out what people know. So you know what to do, and we want to know to communicate.
Islam. So one of my teachers taught me, he said, the lack of communication is the root to all problems. Meaning that when you don't, he smiled at that. You like that one? You like that one? I'll write it down before you go. When I said he smiled, he was like, I said, probably say. Because when two people aren't communicating right, that's when they have their problems, right? So, but here's the key to communication. You have to have an open heart, right? Keep your heart and mind filled with love and your body clean with water. That's how you're able to communicate. What happens if you do have an open heart? Then you can hear the great God when he speaks, and then you'll know how to communicate. Just that thought?
He said, what happens if you don't?
If you don't have an open heart, then you ever see people that get angry and do bad stuff? Yeah. Okay, right. That's what happens. Okay, because their heart is closed. Real quick, there was a prophet. His name was Prophet Muhammad. He had a book called the Quran of Mecca. Right? In that he said, in certain people, you with me? He said, in their hearts is a disease. He said, and because that's what they want, it says Allah will increase that disease because that's what they want. It says in certain people, there's a seal over their hearts so they can't hear. Right? So the key is to always intend to have an open heart. Okay? You good? I can take one more because I think somebody else got a question. Go ahead. And then after the meeting, I'll take whatever question you want. But go ahead.
What would happen? Will heart be broken or just be right?
If you do communicate in a good way that is inspired by the great God, our people will be able to get along, we'll be able to love each other, we'll be able to work together. Okay? Which will make happiness for all of us. Does that make sense? Islam. Now communicate. Y'all got a blessing right there. Islam.
Hey, that's the universe.
Yes, sir.
Right now.
I'll take one more and then I'll lower the meeting. Go ahead, more. Islam. Yes, sir.
got 8 days to
It's really? Is that true?
No.
Oh, don't put that on mom like that. That's a lot of stress. I'm gonna say it's 8 days till the baby get here. That's not, who's that?
You might know something we don't know.
Okay. Who had a question over here? That's not. Real quick. Can you hold that real quick? I just want to give honors to the young people. Moses, you know you're doing good work when the young people want to participate in the meeting. Islam?
And that's very good key points that you
Oh,
think about.
man, what?
We think about it every day.
Out of the mouth of babes. Islam. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say I'm willing to organize as far as street team or whatever.
Islam.
I'm trying to do.
I remember you said that now.
Yeah.
Okay, praise Allah. You know, like what happens a lot of times, how this works, how organized groups, pay attention, how organized groups work is that when you have an idea, you can't suggest an idea to the group and expect somebody else to do it. Allah put that thought on you, so you should spearhead it. Islam? So Brother Marquis, I already know how you do it, organizing. You know what I'm saying? Bringing people out and stuff like that. So we're going to give you the degrees necessary so you can represent the prophet properly while you're out there. Islam? And we're going to back you up. You let me know whatever kind of manpower and woman power you need, we'll organize that. Okay, Islam. All right? But with that, we'll lower the meeting. Islam? Islam? Islam. Moore Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, March 11, 1929. A warning from the prophet to be read in every meeting. Y'all are fine. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam? Islam? Islam. All praise are due to Allah and the highest of honors to his holy divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to thank everyone for participating in the meeting tonight. I want to thank the babies for running around in the spirit of love, blessing the temple with showing that there's life in Grand Temple number 19 and in all Moorish Science temples of America. Islam? Giving honors again to our family from LaGrange, Georgia. We want y'all to continue the great work that you're setting out to do. Islam? Oh, she having a good old ball down there, ain't she? That's when you know she feel comfortable. Islam. She all right, Mo. You don't have to pick her up. She good. She good. She good. Let her have a ball. Somebody just pull her shirt down a little bit, if you don't mind. Somebody just pull that shirt down. Islam. Someone help her out over there. All right? And thank you. In closing as well, something I want the members and sympathizers of Grand Temple number 19 to do, and our family in LaGrange, if y'all want to assist us in this endeavor, this is good. As we know, winter time is approaching. A lot of our brothers and sisters sleep on the streets. Islam. So we need blankets for the homeless. Islam. Blankets, any type of sheet, anything they could put over themselves. Islam. There's a homeless brother. He taught me something I didn't know. He said, blankets are good, but a wet blanket, you know, when it rains, a wet blanket is useless when it's cold. I was like, wow, I didn't think of that. Islam. So we should have, during the winter season, Islam, son, we should have blankets available for our people so they don't have to work. We'll put this on our spirits. Last week, a homeless brother came up at the end of the meeting and asked, excuse me, do y'all have a blanket I could have? And we didn't have one. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that destroyed us. We was like, you know, we got to do better. Islam. That's that. Again, don't forget Sunday school. Also, all members of Study Group 19C, as well as Grand Temple 19, we need headshots of all of you before you go. So we'll just stand you on a blank wall, just take a picture. That'll go with your application. We got to send copies of our application to home office in Baltimore. Islam? All right. And the food as well came from, it was a family that came from, they did a food drive for veterans. You know what I'm saying? You know, I forget where it was at. But so they, you know, so this is the boxes that were left over from the drive. Islam. And that's it. We got our food after the class. Good vegan lasagna on deck. And also too, for those that want further study outside of the 2 days that we're at the temple. We're at the temple 7 days a week. Someone's always here, so you can learn further, gain further instruction on the teachings of the Holy Prophet, Noble Raleigh. Islam, 7 days a week we're here. So no excuse. Islam? Praise Allah, Moors. Everyone please rise. Face the east, which is right ahead of us. And the tradition of our Moorish American forefathers, we stand on our square. Your heels will be touching like this. Raise 5 fingers on your left, 2 fingers on your right, invoking the sacred presence of 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. For our visitors, please adopt a position of prayer that is comfortable for you in giving homage to our collective creator. Please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Heru Ali. Amen. Islam, Moors. Praise Allah. Islam.